My dad is a big, sturdy man, the kind who's seen a lot and doesn't scare easy. That night, though, he came home from work around 3 in the morning, and I barely recognized him as he stepped through the door. He was pale as a sheet. His hands shook while he fumbled with his shoes. The look on his face was pure worry. No, fear. Years ago, I might have expected that. Back when he first took this. Unusual job. He'd come home wrecked. He works at our city's crematorium. In the beginning, he'd almost be in tears. And over dinner tossing back a shot of whiskey, he'd tell us about having to cremate a child. How the family stood there in the chapel, faces empty, eyes on the floor, long past the point of tears. He dreaded the little heat-proof window in the big furnace door, the one you can look through to check the process. But people get used to anything, I guess. And Dad did too. Cremations became routine, just another shift, like a cook throwing steaks on a grill or a mechanic swapping out another alternator. I won't get into how or why he ended up there. Life happens. Anyway, he comes in, middle of the night, and I'm still awake, so I catch him in that state. "Dad, what happened?" He glanced at me, finally got his sneakers off and headed for the kitchen without a word. "I'm fine," he muttered under his breath. "Everything's fine." Come on, I'm not an idiot. Something at work? He realized I wasn't buying it. "I don't even know what to call it," he said. He pulled a bottle of cheap whiskey from the fridge, poured a full shot, and knocked it back in one go. Lately, he barely drank after work, nothing like those first weeks. Mom and I knew. If he hit the bottle the moment he walked in, something was wrong. Right then, Mom wandered in, like she'd felt it in her sleep. "Why so late?" She yawned, then saw his face, and fully woke up. "Vic, what's wrong? You look awful." She noticed the bottle and understood. Work. But after we heard him out, work problems turned out to be an understatement. "A woman came in today," he began. She'd booked ahead, did everything by the book, then showed up in person, sobbing, destroyed. Her daughter had died. Cancer, I think. That's what the director told us. I didn't ask for details. He shook his head. Pretty girl. Young. Should have had a whole life kid someday. But I guess it wasn't meant to be. Anyway, the mom seemed off. Kept rushing us, asking how to speed everything up. We explained it's all about paperwork first, then we proceed. My job is to push a button and manage temperature. I don't decide anything. But she was in a hurry, like we needed to cremate her daughter this second. She even tried to slip me cash. Dad gave a humorless laugh. I told her no, twice. Third time she gave me a look that made my skin crawl, like I'd personally ruined her life. Then she stormed out so hard the door almost came off the hinges. I looked at Hank, my co-worker, and he just twirled a finger at his temple and stared at the shaking door. That was that. We got back to work. A bit later, our director, Mr. Wallace, came in. Said the paperwork was squared away. They'd bring the body that evening. Fine by me. Hank asked if there would be a service or a prayer. She said no. Plot already chosen. Mr. Wallace grumbled. Weird? Not religious, I guess. And she's a piece of work, tried to bribe my guys. He printed the authorization. They'll deliver around 6 or 7. Do it right away, okay? Sure, no problem. By evening, they brought the girl. Calling it a casket was generous. It was the cheapest pine box you can imagine, like it was banged together from leftover planks behind a lumber yard. I've seen worse in 7 years, but still. Not everyone can afford a fancy coffin. It all burns anyway. They unloaded it, and I caught a faint smell already leaking out. Protocol says we verify, make sure it's the right person. But the lid was nailed down tight. "Ma'am, I'm sorry," I told the mother, "but I need to open it. We have to confirm." "Is that necessary?" she snapped. "It's policy. Sometimes the paperwork's wrong." I softened my voice. "You can say your goodbyes in the chapel." "We already did," she said briskly. She wanted that body gone fast, like she was hiding something. That's how it felt. We don't ask questions. We just do the job. Paperwork was clean. The director gave the go-ahead. "You'll be able to pick up the ashes in 2 or 3 hours," I told her. "Do you have an urn?" "No. You can buy one here, down the hall. First right small shop." She started that way, then doubled back, leaned in, and whispered so no one else could hear. "Could you throw the ashes away? Or scatter them somewhere?" "I can't do that, ma'am," I said as politely as I could. I bit my tongue to keep from saying what I wanted to say. "Your daughter just died, and you couldn't even spring for a decent casket. No prayer, no goodbye. And now you want the ashes tossed like trash?" She sniffed and left for the shop. Hank and I rolled the box to the furnace. Took us forever to find the damned crowbar. We started pulling nails. The more the lid opened, the stronger the smell got. "She already turning?" Hank muttered. "Smells like it," I said. We yanked the last nail and lifted the lid. A young woman lay inside. I checked the photo. It was her. Some spots had started to go, especially on the legs and around the abdomen, but the face was still mostly intact. "How long has she been sitting like this?" Hank grumbled. "The certificate says she died yesterday," I told him. "No way," he said. "Yesterday? And it's already like this?" I stared at the body. The skin had mottled patches that looked like they'd grow maggots any minute. "Not our call," I said. "Close it up and let's start. The chamber's at temp." "Yeah, she's roaring." We slid the box in. The door shut. I stepped outside for some air. Hank doesn't smoke, so he stayed in. A second later, he burst out to me. "Hey, there's..." "What?" He looked spooked. Maybe I imagined it, but I swear someone screamed in there. I couldn't help but smile. "If you brought a flask and didn't share, that's on you." "You look through the window?" he asked. "No, I came straight out here." "You saw her. She's decomposing. You probably heard a pipe knock or something." "Maybe I'm just getting old," Hank muttered. "Old my eye. You can outwork half the kids here. Come on, let's check." We went back. There's a small heat-proof viewing window to monitor the burn. I flipped it open. Inside, the box was charred, but there wasn't any flame. Just smoke, embering, but not burning. On the control panel, a red warning light flashed. Good thing the automatic gas shutoff had kicked in. I stared, confused. This never happens. We killed the cycle, ran diagnostics, reignited. The chamber hummed back to life, tongues of fire licking up in the window. "Strange," Hank whispered. "It happens," I said. "Machines act up. Worked like a clock for years, and tonight it throws a tantrum." 5 minutes later, it happened again. Dead fire. Red light. We pulled the box out, ran the furnace empty perfect, heated it hot, then fed the coffin back in. Flames took right away. I stayed at the window. The fire chewed through the pine and crawled toward the body. I watched, and I could have sworn the hand twitched. It was subtle. I told myself it was the heat, the distortion, the flames playing tricks. But when the burners cut out a third time, and the red light flared again, I looked back, and something looked back at me. It was the girl's face, blackened and split, pressed close to the glass. I flinched so hard I nearly fell. For a second, my mind went blank. Something alive was in there. I swear to you it wasn't the dead girl anymore." "Wait, are you sure you weren't drinking at work?" Mom blurted, not believing him. I didn't blame her. I was struggling too. "I don't drink on the job," Dad snapped. "You think I'm making this up?" He gripped the table. What stared at me through that window was a devil. Cross my heart. A human body. Yes, female, but burned. Blackened. The head was too big. And the face. There were no eyes, no mouth, no nose. Just charred skin stretched over where features should be. And the face looked split in two. There was a black seam running down the middle of that thing's face. And inside the darkness, something writhed like worms, like insects. "You don't believe me?" Dad said. "Give me a second." He went to his jacket in the hallway and pulled out his phone. He said the thing stared at him long enough for him to snap a photo. When he showed it to us, my scalp prickled, and Mom actually gasped. I didn't waste time doubting Photoshop or whatever. My dad and his co-worker can barely change a ringtone, let alone do edits. And I'd been to his work plenty. The picture was clearly the furnace window, with Dad's frightened reflection holding the phone. It was real. "What is that?" Hank shouted. Then, as if it hurt him, the face vanished from the little window. Something hammered from inside the chamber, hard. Whatever was in there wanted out. The walls and the door were thick steel, and they held for the moment. "Fire it up now," Hank yelled. I just stood there, half stunned, watching the nightmare unfold. My brain shut down. My hands forgot their job. Hank sprinted to the control panel and hit the ignition. Flames roared to life, and a sound tore through the room. A terrible, layered bellow. The only way I can describe it is a freight train mixed with a chorus of human voices, all screaming at once. It made my knees go weak. "Why didn't you run?" Mom asked. "I don't know," Dad said. "That's what fear does." Or maybe whatever that was had us under its thumb. He poured another quick shot, swallowed, and went on. "We did run, just not right away. The viewing window shattered first. That snapped us out of it. The bosses were long gone. The building was empty. We bolted from the machinery room and tore down the corridor. Something made me look back. The thing was peeking around the doorframe. "It fit through that tiny window?" I asked. "I don't know how it got out," Dad said. "But it stood there, and then it started coming after us. We hit the main exit locked. Tried the service door, also locked. Hank was already losing it. He kept darting left and right like he'd forgotten how to speak. Truth be told, I wasn't much better. "Who locked these doors? Where are the keys?" I yelled. "In the control room," he rasped. The words cut like a blade. We did the only thing we could think of. Ducked into a supply closet. Thank God it was open. We killed the light and shoved anything we could find against the doorknobs. A cart. Boxes. I heard it in the hallway. Heavy, dragging steps. It passed the closet and we both exhaled. Too soon. I cracked the door and glanced out. Empty. We stepped into the hall, and a split head slid into view from behind the doorframe down the corridor. We ran. Full sprint. Windows? Not keys. That was the plan now. No one was thinking about going back for the ring of keys or a proper exit. We cranked a window open and dove out. Don't ask why we didn't do that earlier. I'm telling you, our brains were scrambled. Hank twisted his ankle on the landing and went down screaming. I wasn't going to leave him. I hauled the big guy up like a wounded soldier and dragged him away. The thing stared at us from the window. When I looked back again, 15-20 seconds later, it was gone. We didn't stop until we hit the street, where there were cars and other people. That helped. I got Hank to urgent care, then called a cab and headed home. "Horror," Mom whispered. a hand over her mouth. I'd been watching Dad closely the last few minutes. He kept glancing over his shoulder like he was tracking something only he could see. His eyes were jittery, always moving. Mom didn't seem to notice she was locked on his story. I noticed something else. A small wooden cross on the shelf in my parents' room slid off and hit the floor. No open windows, no draft. Later, after Dad finished the bottle and they got ready for bed, it was nearly morning by then. He took a shower. He's the classic guy. Strips down, leaves his clothes in a heap in the hall. I walked past and saw the pile twitch. I looked closer. White larvae maggots. Not many. 5, maybe. I thought about waking Mom, talking through what to do about Dad, but she was already asleep. I figured we'd deal with it in the morning, if I'd known what morning had in store. I went to my room. Sleep didn't come easy. My head kept replaying that photo. Eventually, exhaustion won, and I drifted off toward dawn. I didn't wake to an alarm or Mom's voice. I woke to the stink of smoke. I shot up. The apartment was full of it. Flames licked the hallway. I wrapped my t-shirt over my mouth and ran out. My parents' bedroom was an inferno. Mom lay motionless, already burned. Dad was nowhere. No clothes, no phone, no documents. Gone, like he'd been erased. I stumbled out and called 911. The firefighters came fast and had it under control just as fast. Mom didn't make it. I barely did. Dad vanished. My home was ruined. A friend let me crash on his couch while I tried to figure out which way was up. We buried Mom the next day at the cemetery near where Dad worked. I don't know what that thing was or where Dad is now, but I think I understand why the woman rushed the cremation. Whatever was in that girl's body wasn't human. When the body turned to ash, it got out. It took my parents from me. Or maybe it didn't leave, it just moved. Maybe it's wearing my father's face right now, waiting for the right moment to do something worse.